All right, Brakatayahu, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rachakudash. Welcome to another live lesson. All right. The name of this one is simply Heirs. And pretty much this lesson is inspired by a video, one of the videos that Elder Pastor did today. I believe it was the first one. And I don't remember exactly what he said, but he was speaking on a video another brother did and mentioned the word heir. And a bunch of precepts started coming to my head. I said, you know what? Do something on this to kind of build off of that name heir. And not just the name heir, an inheritance, but like as far as a physical inheritance, but of a spiritual inheritance, you know. And the word educate came to mind, which comes from the Latin educare, which means to draw out, which you're going to read here. But now that we've been teaching that for years, and there's a book that I had on the root words, and I still have a copy of it. I don't have it on me right now. And the I believe it was in there that we found the word educare, which means to draw out. But in this etim online, they sort of break it down, but then when you read further down, they say that it doesn't have that, you know, it never had that definition, which is a total lie. But nevertheless, you know, either they've been watching us and changed it, or who knows. So the word educate, educatum, bring up children to train. From Latin educatus, past participle of educare, bring up, rear, educate. A source of also of Italian educare, Spanish educar, French educare, which is which is a frequentative of our otherwise related to educere, bring out, lead forth, from ex out, and ducere to lead, or so much, or to draw out, to lead, meaning provide schooling, is attested, you know, you get the rest. And here it says, according to the Century Dictionary, educere of a child is usually with reference to bodily nurture or support, while educare refers from more frequently to the mind. And there is no authority for the common statement that the primary sense of education is to draw out or unfold the powers of the mind, which that's a total lie. You know, you have sources out there, you know, that broke that down and showed that the word educate or educare means to draw out. When you break down the word, you know, the compound word educate. But you're going to get misinformation, so on and so forth. So the first precept that came in the book of Galatians, all right, and in the book of Galatians, I'm going to start at the first, and then we're going to build from a couple of precepts that came to mind, and so this will be an. So Galatians 4:1 says, "Now I say that the heir is talking about or speaking about the Israelites, in particular the Israelite man. So now I say that the heir, and what is an heir? An heir is someone, a child, a son that has rights to the properties of his father, whether they're riches, land, home, cattle, slaves, whatever the case may be. Let's look up this word heir, just to see how they break it down here. The word there is kleronomos. Kleronomos says one who receives by lot. See, an heir. In Messianic usage, one who receives his allotted possession by right of sonship. Oh, that's beautiful. You know, because this goes into the lesson also. It says one who has acquired or obtained the portion allotted to him, right, by lot. So the right way would be you have a father, Israelite man. He had sons, he had daughters. The firstborn son would normally get the inheritance because that's the way it was set up, you know. But the thing about it is, you know, in certain cases, like in the case of Jacob and Esau, Esau was born first and Jacob was born second, but Jacob acquired the inheritance. In the case of the patriarchs, the inheritance was supposed to go to Reuben, but Reuben lay with one of his father's concubines, and it passed on. Eventually, Ephraim got it. That's why Ephraim, at one point you had the Ark of the Covenant that was in Shiloh. Shiloh was one of the towns of Ephraim, but then eventually it was taken from Ephraim and given to Judah because it belonged to Judah all along. This is why before Jacob's death, he gave a blessing to Judah and said, Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. So it belonged to Judah all along, even though Judah was the fourth-born son. All right. So an heir is someone that's in line to receive an inheritance. All right. And it's physical, spiritual. In the sense of spiritual are the sons of it, or the children of Most High, or the elect of the nation of Israel that will receive the blessing when Yahweh Shai comes back. So going back, let's read that again. So it says, now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, meaning he hasn't come to the fullest. He hasn't been trained up. He hasn't been nurtured. He hasn't been taught. Differeth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all. So even though he is the heir or the Lord, if he's a child, he doesn't have the proper understanding. He still has to be reared up. He still has to be trained. The scriptures say, let me see. I believe it's in Ecclesiastes. Let me just type in. I know it's a whole bunch of stuff it's gonna come up with this. Let's see. I figured that. Let me go back. Let me try it this way. I know it's in Ecclesiastes. I believe it might be 10, could be 7. Let me try it this way instead. Oops. The hell. All right, let's just bear me 1 second. Damn. Let me just look through Ecclesiastes. Beautiful. Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 16. O land, when thy king is a child. Why? Because he doesn't know the difference between right or wrong. He hasn't been taught. He hasn't been trained up. He doesn't have the experience. And thy princes eat in the morning. Why? Because they haven't been trained. All right. It says, blessed art thou, O land, when thy king is the son of nobles. Why? Because they will train him up in the right way. Just like the Bereans, when they came up being trained. They came up, learning. They were learned. And they came up being taught how to research and look things up and go back into the scriptures and read the scriptures. Even though somebody says something, they may believe it, but to go back and confirm what's written in the scriptures. It says, and thy princes eat in due season for strength and not for drunkenness. All right, so we got that. So blessed, it said, woe to thee, O land, when thy king is a child. Why? Because he is the heir, but he doesn't have the proper understanding and he doesn't have the experience to lead as a king. So that's why it says in Galatians 4:1, now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, differeth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all, but is under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the father. So these tutors and governors, what was their job? Their job was to train him up and teach him how to be a king, how to lead, how to be regal. and he starts off as a prince. That prince is trained up from a child to take over the throne once his father passes on. All right. And that is a physical heir. In this truth, we're being trained up how to be kings in the future kingdom. All right. So now let's go real quick here. Proverbs 22:6. And it says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And when you look up the word train up, it goes into the Hebrew word chanak, which the word chanak means to train up, to dedicate. All right. Like the name Enoch, I believe is Chanawak, which means like learned man. Okay. When you loosely translate it, as a word Elder Pastor uses all the time. So it's to train up, to be learned. So how do you learn? By going through the disciplines of wisdom. And going through the disciplines of wisdom, you're being taught how to conduct yourself, in any situation concerning wisdom. And that's what, all those different kings of Israel did. When they were sons, they were a prince, they were trained up on how to be a king once they took over the throne. All right. So we go to Hebrews chapter 5, right? Because we're applying this to something, we're applying this to a spiritual aspect of becoming an heir. Matter of fact, let's go real quick to Romans chapter 8 and verse 16. It says, the Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirits that we are the children of the Most High. And if children, then heirs. See, heirs of the Most High and joint heirs with Yahushua. In what? In Yahushua's kingdom. But we have to work towards that kingdom. We have to be involved in the work. We have to continuously teach as often as the Spirit allows, to continue to edify, because this is the road to get to that spot. This is the road to get to salvation. It says, if so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together. See, because we have part of the glory of the kingdom of heaven is to suffer. Now, the scripture said that Yahushua despised the shame, but because of the glory that was set before him, he dealt with it. He took it. And this is why it's so important to really understand what you're involved in, so that when these calamities, this tribulation, these afflictions come upon you, you don't become offended. Yahushua said it best. Blessed is he that is not offended in me. And he also said, many shall be offended. All right. So let's go from there to Hebrews 5:12. For the time you ought to be teachers. Now, what is a teacher? A teacher is a prophet, a preacher, someone who instructs others because they have been instructed. But before this was a disciple. He was a student. It means to be disciplined. So you have to go through a particular discipline to be able to become a teacher. The Apostle Paul instructed Timothy, who was taught by the Apostle Paul. He was taught by his grandmother and mother first. Then he was taken under the wing of the Apostle Paul, and he was taught. And then as he was taught, this is what the Apostle Paul told him. 2 Timothy 2:1. Thou therefore, my son, be strong in the grace that is in Yahushua HaMashiach, and the things, meaning the training that I gave you, that thou hast heard of me among many witnesses, the same commit thou to faithful men who shall be able to teach others also. All right, so that's the job of the teacher, to teach disciples. And these disciples, if they're willing to subject themselves to the discipline that it takes to learn, especially something, as important as this truth, then they will be, and you'll be able to do it is if you are part of the elect, And then that way you'll be able to walk down that path of discipline to ultimately become a teacher. So it says, "And the things that thou hast heard of me among my many witnesses, the same commit thou to faithful men who shall be able to teach others also." And that's what it is a cycle, continuous cycle of teaching, being a disciple, becoming a teacher, teach other disciples to become teachers. They teach other disciples to become teachers, so on and so forth, so on and so forth, because all of the men of Israel will be teachers eventually. But in this time, the Lord is only dealing with the elect. This is why the elect are the only ones that can receive the understanding and the mysteries of this truth. To others, it seems crazy. It seems bugged out. It seems wild. Why would the Most High put his people through such tribulations like this? Why would he, seem so heartless and have these calamities come upon us if he loved us so much? Well, if you understood the scriptures, you would know that he gave us a set of rules and regulations and instructions to follow, and we didn't follow it. But there was also a bigger picture to that. But emotions will always get in the way of understanding. That's a lesson right there. So going back to Hebrews 5, for the time you ought to be teachers, you have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of the Most High. So what be the first principles of the words of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai? And you can't get offended. Whatever the word says, that's what you got to teach. 1 Peter 4:11, if any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of the Most High. So if you're going to speak, if you're going to teach, first of all, you have to be trained the right way. You have to learn the right way. You have to learn the right doctrine. You can't just learn pieces and bits of what you like, cast the rest out, and then just add along as you feel, fill in the blanks. Don't work like that. There's penalties for that. There's penalties for those that go against the teachings of the Lord and add to his word or take away from his word. There's penalties for that. So if you do that, that means that the Lord is going to deal with you, because he's going to curse you and he's going to destroy you. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which the Most High giveth, because every man has his proper gift. That's why it says, he that prophesied, I believe this is either Romans 12 or 1 Corinthians 12, he that prophesied, let him do it as the ability that the Lord gave him, because each individual man that comes into this truth is given a certain portion of the Spirit. Some are given 30-fold, some are given 60-fold, some are given 100-fold. And we are all required to take those talents and trade them out there. So the 30-fold individual won't be able to do as much as the 60 or the 100-fold, but do the best you can with what the Lord gave you. The 60-fold shouldn't strive to try to do what the 100-fold do, or shouldn't slack off to do what the 30-fold does, because you were given 60-fold. You were given more than the first individual. So you're required to do more. To whom much is given, much is required. And the 100-fold individual that was given the 100-fold, he should be pushing out 100-fold. He shouldn't be doing 60 or 30-fold. He should be on fire all the time. You see? 60, he should be on fire all the time, but there's going to be times when, because the Lord didn't give him all of that. 30-fold, the same thing. But all in all, everyone's still striving to do 100, even though you may only have 30 or 60. That's just a number that the Lord threw out there. All right? It says that the Most High in all things may be glorified through Yahushai. So whatever the Lord gives, we push it so that the Most High Yahweh and his son Yahushai can be glorified. Because that's how we glorify the Lord. Through the acceptance of the grace of Yahushai that bought us and brought us back to the good graces of Yahweh. It says, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever, so be true. So going back to Hebrews 5, for when the time you ought to be teachers, you have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of the Most High. You have to learn from a babe. You can't just take this thing and jump in with both feet. You have to learn. You have to learn in stages. The Apostle Paul said it best. There was, okay, let me get this, but let me get 1 Corinthians real quick. Let me get this. And then we'll come back to this one. 1 Corinthians 3:1. And I, brethren, could not speak unto you as unto spiritual, but as unto carnal, even as unto babes in Yahushua. Why? Because in order to be a spiritual man, you have to get through the milk stage. That's why you have a lot of individuals out there that's throwing up all over the place, because they try to jump from the milk stage to the meat stage and choked all over the place. Let's go to 1 Timothy 3:6. And they really believe in their demonic warped mind of theirs that they're really doing the right thing. 1 Timothy 3:6. Not a novice, least being lifted up with pride, he fall into the condemnation of the devil. Why? Because they wanted to skip the milk stage and go straight to the meat. Because they had this notion in their mind that they wanted fame, or they wanted money, or whatever their motivation was, or they wanted women, whatever their motivation was. So they missed the whole point of going through the disciplines and learning and keeping the doctrine pure. They intermeddle with all, man, let's get that. Let me see if. Right, Proverbs 18:1. Through desire, a man having separated himself from what? From the truth, from the doctrine, seeketh and intermeddleth with all wisdom. See? So, you have to be careful. Then the scriptures also speak about to beware of him that is given to change. Going back to 1 Corinthians 3 and verse 2, I have fed you with milk and not with meat, for hitherto you were not able to bear it, neither yet now are you able, for you are yet carnal. For whereas there is among you envying and strife and divisions, are you not carnal and walk as men? So if you can't get past the milk stage, you can't be a teacher. But you have a lot of dudes out there that are not qualified to be teachers, but they're still out there, doing, pretty much vomiting all over the table, pretty much. All right, so Hebrews 5:12 again. For the time you ought to be teachers, you have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of the Most High, and have become such as have need of milk and not of strong meat. All right, so now you need milk. And milk is not talking about that crap you get at the store in a gallon. It's talking about the fundamental building block stage of the scriptures to build you up. 1 Peter 2:2, as newborn babes desire the sincere milk of the word, that you may grow thereby. Because when you come into this knowledge, you come into this knowledge as a baby. Babies cannot eat solid foods. Babies have to drink their mother's breast. So they're attached to their mother's breast usually to around 2 years old or so, maybe a little more than that, depending on the baby itself, and that milk that is produced by the mother from other things that she eats, that milk helps that baby's body to get ready to start eating certain solid foods. But even when the baby comes out, when they're weaned, which they come out of the milk stage, they still have to eat what they call baby food. Everything is mashed up. And even when you feed them, like let's say potato, you got to cut in small pieces, and whatever you do, you got to cut in small pieces and mash it up still so that, so that the baby doesn't choke. But you got a lot of individuals out here that are still babies, novices, and they're choking off the meat. That's why they're making such erratic decisions and such erratic, stupid statements. So going back, Hebrews 5, for the time you ought to be teachers, you have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of the Most High, and become such as have need of milk and not of strong meat. Let's go to Isaiah 28:9. Now this is the Heavenly Father asking a question through Isaiah. Whom shall he teach knowledge? So who is the Most High going to teach this knowledge to? And whom shall he make to understand doctrine? So how can the Lord teach you and you understand this doctrine? Well, we have to first come through Yahushua. Matter of fact, let me get I believe is that Galatians 4? Let me see. Galatians 4. Yep. Galatians 4:19. My little children, of whom I travail in birth again until Yahushua be what? Formed in you. Because until Yahushua is formed in us, we're still babies, even though we're being guided. Once Yahushua is formed in us, then the Spirit takes over. And that's where the spiritual heir comes into play. As we read in Galatians 4, and when we read about heir, let's get that real quick again. Heir. The word is kleronomos, one who receives by lot, an heir, right here. In Messianic usage, one who receives the allotted possession by right of sonship. Because we are sons of the Most High through Yahushua, and we are joint heirs with Yahushua. So unless we come through the door, through the porter, we cannot get to the Father. And that's why when you try to sidestep grace, which is Yahushua, you're trying to get to the Father off your own merits. All right? So going 28 and 2, knowledge and whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. When you wean from the milk, means you no longer need to be attended to. Your diapers changed, the bottle put into your mouth, your bottom wiped, constantly watched over because you might hurt yourself. You got to the point where now you become more independent. All right, so the word weaned here, so you can get an idea. Weaned, the word there is gamal, which there's one Hebrew word gamal, which means camel. But this is to deal fully with recompense, meaning you came to an end of that milk stage. You no longer need them. Now you're ready for meat. All right. There was a precept that just came to mind to deal fully. Let's go to 2 Timothy chapter 3. And 15. And that I started 14. But continue thou in the things which thou hast learned and hast been assured of, knowing of whom thou hast learned them, and that from a child thou hast known the holy scriptures, which are able to make thee wise unto salvation through faith which is in Yahushua Mashiach. So how is that? Through the scriptures, to become wise. Because the scriptures were right here. All scripture is given by inspiration of the Most High, and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness. Right. And that's where you have to be disciplined and learn the discipline of this truth so that you can get to the point where you can become a teacher. But you can't become a teacher if you're not ready for the milk stage. You can't jump from the milk stage to the meat stage without finishing, the meat stage. I'm sorry, the milk stage. It says that the man of the Most High may be what? Perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. So when you're perfect, means that you're entire. There's no need. Completion. So we got two words here. You will have the word artios, fitted, complete, perfect, having reference apparently to a special aptitude for given uses, right? Because you have been trained in that field. So let's go back and let's get the other word, which is thoroughly furnished, Like you have a home, right? It might be the baddest home on the block, beautiful on the outside. But if you go in there, when you go in there, inside joke, and there's no furniture, the home is not really complete. It doesn't feel homely. It just feels like a nice house that still hasn't been furnished, right? So the word there is exatizo, which is to complete, finish, to furnish perfectly. See, to finish, accomplish, as it were, to render the days complete. So to furnish perfectly. So how do you furnish? What, first of all, what is the home? Our spirit. So how do you furnish that home? With knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, discipline, experience, and these different afflictions, because all of these are the road, or what they call the rite of passage, right? Let's go to, let's type in the rite of passage meaning. A rite of passage is a ceremony or ritual that makes the transition from one social or religious status to another. In this case, we're talking about from a disciple to a teacher. It signifies a significant change in an individual's life. Why? Because they went through the training, such as leaving one group to enter another or taking on a new role. These rites exist in all historically known societies and can involve various ceremonies that celebrate milestones in a person's life. In other words, now you have to go through that discipline, through that road in order to get to the road of perfection. You see? Hopefully you're following along. So it says to deal out, to do to deal out to do to deal bountifully with, to recompense, repay, requite, to wean a child, to be weaned, to ripen, bear. Let's look up the word wean in the regular dictionary. Let's see what it says for wean. Accustom an infant or other young mammal to food other than its mother's milk. See? So now you're ready to go past that past the milk stage. All right? So it says, whom shall he teach knowledge and whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Then that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. Now you can start to get to the level of being a teacher. All right. It says, for precept must be upon precept, which is the scriptures, precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little. And this is how the scriptures are taught. So going back to Hebrews 5, we have to read this again. Hebrews 5:12. For the time you ought to be teachers, you have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of the Most High, and are become such as have need of milk and not of strong meat. See, because it says, for everyone that uses milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. You're still not on the level to understand the meat stage. Let's go to the word unskillful. Apedos, right? Inexperiencing without experience of. And what is experience? X is out. Peritas means to try. So experience. How do you somebody, or how does somebody get experience? Whatever field it is that you're dealing with. You see? So if you're still in the milk stage, you're inexperienced on how to deal with the meat stage. So you're not ready. So there's a proper way to go down that road, just like there's a proper way for a prince to become a king. So when the king is a child, woe to the land. Why? Because you can't depend on that king for anything. He doesn't know this. You know more than that king does. But when the king is the son of nobles, now you're good, because you know that he was trained up on how to deal with all of these different matters. And that's, why you see different brothers out there, the apostles, the bishops, elders that are experienced in teaching. you know, that you know, a novice would be all upset about, because he either may not know or may not have had the experience of dealing with that particular question or scripture, or whatever the case may be. So going back, so let's read that again. For everyone that useth milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. But strong meat belongeth to them that are of what? Full age. Let's look up that word full age so you can get an idea. So they're grown, they've grown up from the milk stage to the meat stage. Full age. Teleaios, which means to be fully furnished, brought to his end, finished, wanting nothing necessary to completeness. Why? Because you finished the course of discipline to become a teacher. All right? So going back, but strong meat belongeth to them that are full age, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. Let's look up this word use. Use is what? Experience. The word is hexis, a habit, whether of body or mind, a power acquired by custom, practice, use. See? So it's something that you do repetitively. That's why you see lessons go up. You may, you know, since you've been on YouTube, you may have seen or heard the breakdown of Daniel's, the 7th chapter, thousands of times. But guess what? You're going to hear it thousands of times more until the Lord, you know, says, okay, that's enough. No more teaching. Because that's the way you learn. Elder Apostle Gabar always says, you know, repetition is the father of skill. This world says the mother of skills, but the Apostle Gabar put his own spin on it, a righteous spin. He said repetition is the father of skill. And that's how you learn, by repetition. When you become an entertainer, you know, you have a group, let's say you're R&B singers, you have a group. You have to practice not only the singing, but you have to practice the dance routines. You know, you have to do exercises, you know, to get your body in shape so that you can, you know, have the wind necessary to do those dances on stage, move around stage, and still be able to sing your song. And it takes practice. You don't just go to the studio, lay the song down, and then practice one time and then you're ready. No, it takes a lot of practice. So by the time you get on stage, people are looking at the product that's on the stage, and they're like, man, them guys are bad, man. They're good and terrible, right? But the thing is, you didn't see the behind the scenes, you know, effort that it took for them to get that type of a band. Like James Brown was known for his constant, you know, repetition, going over stuff over and over again, practice. So when they got on stage, he knew how to say certain things, and they was the drummer or the whoever, the bass player, whoever knew exactly what James Brown was talking about. And you would think, you know, like, man, these guys are on point, and they are, but you didn't see the behind the scenes practicing that it took, the heartaches, the pain, you know, the curse outs and all of that to get to that level. Why is it? Because of habit, because of reason of use. And that's how it is in this truth to be a teacher, having their senses exercised. The word exercise, gymnazo, which the word gym means naked, but it says to exercise naked in a palestra or school of athletics, to exercise vigorously in any way, either the body or the mind. And that's the discipline, you know. And how do you do that? Well, pretty much by studying. Let's go to 2 Timothy chapter 2 and 15. You know, you brothers that's been around for a while, you know this. This is for the newer members. 2 Timothy 2:15, for those of you who may not know, study to show thyself approved unto the Most High, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. You cannot become a teacher until you get past the milk stage. And it's a constant repetition, constant going over stuff, you know. And even if a brother's gone over it 1,000 times, and you're a new member, right? You keep going over it until you get to the point where you are expert at it. Let's look up the word study. The word there is spudazzo, which means to make haste or speed. To hasten, make haste, to exert oneself, endeavor, give diligence, right? And sometimes you got to pull back because the scriptures say that. Matter of fact, let's get it. Haven't read that in years. Let's get it. Ecclesiastes 12 and 13. Let us hear the 12. And further by these, my son, be admonished of making many books, there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh. So just study the scriptures. You could go to certain historical facts and points that make that go along with the scriptures. But if you try to get into every book out there that's out there, you're gonna wear yourself out. Much study is a weariness of the flesh. But you still have to study. All right. Back in Hebrews 5, let's read this again. It says 5:14, but strong meat belongeth to them that are full age, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. So this is the road to get to the inheritance. All right. The spiritual inheritance, not the physical one. All right. So let's go. I've got two more precepts. St. John. This is what Yahushua told his disciples, which later became apostles after he went back to the Father. John 15:26. But when the Comforter is come, which is the book and the Spirit that comes with the book, whom I will send unto you from the Father, even the Spirit of truth, which proceedeth from the Father, he shall testify of me, and you also of Yahushua. And you also shall bear witness, because you have been with me from the beginning. See, now somebody with a carnal mind would read that and say, oh, just from the beginning when Yahushua called the disciples from their jobs. But this goes back all the way back to the beginning of time, or even before the world began. Because the spirits that can get it now, the spirits that understand this truth now, are the same before the world even. 1 second. All right. So these spirits were there all the way from the beginning, beginning with the disciples. They were given to Yahushua because they were with Yahushua from the beginning. Ephesians chapter 1, verse 3. Blessed be the power and Father of our Lord Yahushua HaMashiach, because they're two separate entities, who have blessed us with all spiritual blessings in heavenly places in Yahushua, which is this knowledge. Those are the spiritual blessings. These are the blessings we want. Of course, we need, carnal blessings to be able to, function in this society. But we want those spiritual blessings too, because that's, what's going to lead us. It says, excuse me, according as he hath chosen us in him, in Yahushua, before the foundation of the world. And that's why you're able, if you're in this thing and you're a prophet and you endure to the end, that's why we're able to understand this knowledge, receive this knowledge, be constantly inspired. Like Yahushua said, he that believeth on me, as the scripture have said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. Why? Because you were here from the beginning. You were here before the world began. This was already put in you. It's already programmed in you. Just like, because that's why even if you don't want to do it, you are compelled to do it, because the Spirit will compel you. Just like Jeremiah. Jeremiah said, man, Lord, you lied to me. I ain't going to teach your word no more, this, that, and the other. And the Lord was sitting up there just laughing, because, he already knew what the deal was. And Jeremiah tried to put this off, but guess what? It was a fire burning in him to where he couldn't hold his peace, or he would have exploded. So eventually he kept speaking. Why? Because that was his lot. That is his lot. So if Jeremiah is alive today on the planet, right? If he's not in the spirit world right now, he's doing the same thing that he did back when he was Jeremiah. Only this time he has a different name, a different look, but he's still doing the same exact thing. Said that we should be holy and without blame before him in love, having predestinated us unto the adoption of children by Yahushua himself to himself, according to the good pleasure of his will. Let's look up this word predestinated. The word is prorizo, right? To predetermine, decide beforehand. In the New Testament of the Most High, decreeing from eternity to foreordain a point beforehand. See? So if you're in this thing and you're in the elect and you make it, and you're going to make it to the end, because this was already embedded in you from the beginning, before the and the men that I chose outside of scary. It was that those men did or didn't do. It was the Lord, Yahweh, that preordained these men to do what they did or do. All right. It says, verse 6, to the praise of the glory of his grace, wherein he hath made us accepted in him, in the beloved, in whom we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sins according to the riches of his grace, wherein he hath abounded towards us in all wisdom and prudence. Why? This wisdom and prudence was given to these men before the foundation of the earth, having made known unto us the mystery of his will, according to his good pleasure, which he had purposed in himself. And that's why, if you are a part of the elect, you're gonna get it. You're gonna learn this truth. You're gonna get it, and you're gonna abound. You're gonna increase in it. It says that in the dispensation of the fullness of times, meaning when the time is right, when the time, comes to the point where it's time for you to start teaching, he might gather to, and it comes to, for the reward to come, he might gather together in one all things in Yahushua. So that's why we're drawn to this, and we'll stay with this if we are part of the elect, both which are in heaven and which are on earth, even in him, right? Because the ones that are in heaven, because their spirit is up there, their flesh is in the earth right now. When Yahushua comes back, they're going to be the first ones to rise up, to resurrect. It says, in whom also we have obtained an inheritance. See? So what is that inheritance? Being an heir with Yahushua, a joint heir. So we received that inheritance through Yahushua, and this was given before the world began, being predestinated according to the purpose of him who worketh all things after the counsel of his own will. And the Apostle Paul said the best, it's not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but of the Most High that you are part of the elect. You will receive the inheritance. And this is why the word educate or educare means to draw from within or to draw out, because it was already in us before the world began. It says that we should be to the praise of his glory who first trusted in Yahushua, right? Because it's not for our glory. These guys that are about self-glorification, they don't know what this is about. This is about what we learn and this great knowledge that we have. The scriptures say knowledge puffeth up. Why? Because it's intense. It's a beautiful thing. But it's given to us and entrusted to us in these earthen vessels to praise Yahweh and Yahushua, not ourselves. We leave that to the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, that he will exalt us and get us praise and fame in due time, whenever he's ready for it. But right now, our job is to do this work to glorify Yahweh and Yahushua all the way to the end. So with that, I pray that you brothers and a few sisters have been edified. Till next time I say, Shalom.